For sinister and spine-chilling true spring break horror stories exposed. Terrifying secrets await. Emily had finally pulled it off, a break from the grind of single motherhood with her two teenagers, Sarah and Jake. Together, they stepped into the warmth of their rented beach house in Ocean View. The towering palm trees swayed. The beach glistened under the afternoon sun, but deep down, something felt off. The lights flickered in a strange rhythm. It was as if they were alive, teasing them as shadows crept along the walls. A few hours in, the smiles faded. With a quick glance at their phones, Emily's heart raced when she noticed an anonymous message on their group chat warning them to leave the house. At first, it felt like a prank, until Jake grinned nervously and said, "What if it's real?" Emily's instincts prickled, a mother's gut always screaming to be heard. The sun dipped low, casting eerie shadows and igniting a sense of dread. They decided to explore the beach, letting laughter escape their lips, yet something heavy loomed. They returned to feel a shift in the atmosphere, a cold tension that slithered along the floorboards. While poring through the history of their rental, Emily's stomach twisted. Two college kids had vanished without a trace, just like this mysterious whispers and shadows lurking behind closed doors. She discovered peculiar symbols etched into the windows. It felt like a warning. Were they mere coincidences or signs of a past best left forgotten? Moments later, the comforting familiarity of their suburb back home shattered. A call from Mr. Thompson, their ever-reliable neighbor, sent shivers down her spine. His voice was flat, devoid of warmth. Something was off. It was like he had been replaced by a stranger. Burdened by growing paranoia, Emily recalled whispered tales of odd happenings and shady figures flitting around their neighborhood. Struggling against dismissive authorities who downplayed her unease left her feeling naked and exposed. That night, restless dreams plagued her. Dark figures invaded her subconscious, her children in danger, their laughter twisted into chilling cries. When she woke, panic prickled beneath her skin. Jake was missing from his bed. Desperate, she tore through the house, her heart pounding, only to hear hushed voices emanating from the kitchen. She raced down, the dim light barely illuminating the sinister silhouette overshadowed by her mounting dread. Outside, laughter mixed with the crashing waves, but it felt wrong, derisive, mocking. Then, her heart dropped. Another message popped up, a shocking image of Jake, fear etched into his features, with a shadowy figure lurking behind him. Gripped by terror, she felt the weight of the world on her shoulders. She had to choose. Chase what clung to the darkness or flee from the unraveling nightmare. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The floorboards creaked as she stepped forward, the pulse of fear racing through her veins. Outside, the shadows danced, echoing the laughter that called her back to the very start of their vacation. Underneath, a sinister undertone whispered, "Trust no one." The house, like a predatory beast, waited for her next move, its secrets lurking just beyond her reach. As the night deepened, Emily stood at the edge of a choice, unaware that whatever awaited deep in that darkness would change everything. Emily's breath hitched in her throat as she stepped into the kitchen, the light casting long, trembling shadows. Panic seized her limbs. Who was in her house? The shadows in the corner shifted, blurring into a figure cloaked in darkness, but not entirely veiled by the feeble light. It stood there, silent and still. "Jake?" she called, voice trembling. A wave of unease washed over her, the silence swallowing her words. She hated how vulnerable she felt. The low hum of her phone beside her shattered the quiet, and she snatched it up, the screen illuminating her face. Another message. "He is closer than you think. Trust the darkness." Her fingers shook as she dropped the phone, its thud echoing like a gunshot in the oppressive silence. Moments passed like hours, her heart thunderous against her rib cage. The figure remained, its features obscured, a mass of shadows reflecting the worst of her fears. She didn't want to approach it, but she was done running. "Show yourself," she shouted, Pushing down the dread that clawed at her throat, the figure stirred, a familiar form materializing like a mirage. It was Jake, but his eyes were wild, unrecognizable. "Mom," he cried, his voice a broken whisper, tethered to dread. "You have to listen." He stumbled forward, his body shaking with fear. "They're coming. The shadows, they're not just in the house." A giggle erupted beyond the window, sharp and mocking like shards of glass. Sarah's face, usually bright with laughter, appeared against the night sky. But this laughter had a sinister edge. "You can't save him, Mom," she teased, her voice echoing with a haunting resonance, sending chills down Emily's spine. "You're too late." "Sarah!" Emily screamed, terror intertwining with desperation. She rushed to the window, but it was as if a barrier held her back. Outside, her daughter twirled in the moonlight, her movements unnaturally fluid. The shadows danced around her, merging with the darkness of the house, feeding into a hypnotic rhythm. Jake's panicked face came into view again, desperate eyes pleading with her. "It's not Sarah. It's a trick. We need to get out of here." Emily's heart raced. She wanted to believe him, to trust his instincts. Yet, her attachment to Sarah tugged at her, binding her to the spot. "I can't leave her," she shouted back, her voice wavering. But something shifted in Jake's eyes, a terrifying realization that illuminated his face. "Mom, look!" The kitchen lights flickered violently, and the shadows congealed like viscous oil pooling around their ankles. The air turned thick, heavy with a palpable dread. "Choose, Emily," Jake hissed, his voice echoing, warping through the space like an incantation. "You have to choose now." Outside, the laughter stopped abruptly, a fragment of silence stretching taut. Visibly, the shadows surged. Figures emerged from the darkness, faces twisted into grins that promised utter malevolence. Emily stood paralyzed, cringing at the sight, the reality crashing in like relentless waves. The choice loomed heavy before her. Jake reached for her, his hand trembling as the shadows threatened to swallow him whole. She felt the pull of Sarah on the other side, a beckoning that felt like hope, yet dripped with poison. This was not a game. It was the very essence of survival. As Emily stood at the precipice of madness, a chilling wind howled through the house, whispering secrets of despair. She wanted to scream, wanted to run, but her feet rooted to the ground. A sudden crash from the attic broke through the tension, a loud, ominous sound that sent her reeling. "Mom, we can't stay here," Jake yelled, his voice slicing through her fog of panic. But a creeping voice dripped into her mind, whispering truths she didn't want to hear. What if the darkness just wants you to leave? The shadows closed in. What awaited her in the attic? The answer would either save her or condemn them all. Would she dare uncover the truth behind the darkness? The attic door creaked, an eerie invitation that seeped into Emily's dread-filled mind. She glanced at Jake, his expression a mix of terror and determination. "Go," he shouted, his eyes darting to the gathering shadows. It felt as if the darkness hungered, stretching toward them like a predator in the night. In that moment, something deep within her broke loose, propelling her toward the staircase. She sprinted up the thin wooden stairs, heart pounding with every step. The air grew colder, tightening around her body as she gripped the door handle. With a deep breath, she swung the door open and stepped into the attic. Dust swirled like ghostly apparitions in the weak light from a lone bulb swinging above her head. Old boxes lined the walls, memories encased in a shroud of neglect. As she moved further in, a feeling of foreboding crept up her spine. The shadows here danced differently, almost alive, as if they were waiting for her to reach too far. "Sarah?" she called, but the words slipped from her mouth, lost in the clamor of a sudden deep thud from beneath her feet. She froze, listening, as another crash sounded below. "Jake!" she shouted, her voice cracking. Fear coiled tightly around her throat. From a shadowy corner, something stirred. A figure materialized from the darkness, a girl, but it wasn't Sarah, not the sweet, cherubic face she adored. This child's smile was wrong, stretching too wide, too hungry. "I know where Sarah is," the apparition whispered, words dripping with malice. "Get away from me," Emily screamed, stumbling back against a cold box. "Mom, you'll never know," the figure taunted, leaping toward her with unnatural grace. In a flash, Emily dashed past it, desperation fueled by her need to save Jake, to save them both from this nightmare. Heart racing, she flung open box after dusty box. Old toys lay scattered, bearing witness to a life long gone. But where was Sarah? The attic began to swirl, shadows pulsating closer and closer. Crouched in a corner, she spotted what seemed to be a diary, the worn cover beckoning her. With trembling hands, she opened it. Pages filled with hasty scrawls told of ominous events, dark rituals, and the names of those who had vanished in the night. One name chilled her deeply, Brandon. It echoed through her mind, a name she had buried with every fiber of her being. A past she hoped was gone. Suddenly, a piercing scream erupted from below, followed by an unearthly silence. It froze her in place, heart collapsing into despair. "Jake!" She cried out again, raw terror spilling from her lips. A cold gust of wind swept through the attic as the shadows thickened, swirling around her, whispering promises of fear and despair. They pressed against her, pulling her down, dragging her memories into depths she hadn't known existed. Out of the corner of her eye, she caught movement, the twisted face of the girl, now watching her intently. A sudden realization struck her like a thunderclap. The shadows weren't just reflections of her fears. They were manifestations drawing power from her past. "Think, Emily. You have to think," she muttered to herself, fighting against the grasping darkness. "Sarah's still out there." As if in response, a low growl rolled through the attic, vibrating deep in her bones. The shadows recoiled for a moment, as if unsure of their hold. In that brief flicker of light, she spotted a hidden trapdoor in the floor, a glimmer of hope ignited in her chest. But would uncovering it lead her to safety, or deeper into the darkness? Her heartbeat pulsed in her ears. No time to waste. She rushed to the trapdoor, barely aware of the horrors closing in, but knowing she had to choose. The echoes of Jake's scream reverberated in her mind. What awaited her beneath the floorboards? Would she find a way to save herself, her children, or only the rugged remnants of despair? The walls seemed to whisper her name, weaving a sinister endgame that felt inevitable. The moment loomed, heavy with expectancy, as Emily's fingers grasped the cold handle. Would she unlock the gate to salvation, or damning secrets that threatened to consume them all? Emily's fingers trembled as she gripped the handle of the trapdoor, feeling the weight of countless eyes upon her, the whispers of shadows inviting her to descend. Heart hammering, she pulled it open, the hinges squealing in protest, releasing a gust of stale air that smelt of mildew and regret. The darkness below seemed alive, a breathing entity that beckoned her. She peered down, revealing a narrow staircase descending into blackness. A creeping chill crawled up her spine, but she had no choice. Jake was down there. Perhaps Sarah too. Steeling herself, she stepped through the threshold. The moment her foot touched the first step, the attic above seemed to shudder, the shadows convulsing like angry spirits. With each step deeper into the abyss, the light of the attic faded, consuming her in growing uncertainty. The stairs creaked ominously, protesting her advance. Each sound echoed around her like a warning. She whispered Jake's name, her voice fragile and thin, swallowed by the oppressive silence. Would he answer? Was he truly down here, or was this just another trap laid by that evil, snickering apparition? Descending further felt like diving into a well of despair, her heart echoing in the hollow darkness. The walls were damp and cold, slick with some unseen substance, a worry gnawing at her. Had someone else come down here and never returned? Were there echoes simply lost in the shadows? One more step. Another. Then Emily's foot touched what appeared to be the last step, and she found herself engulfed in a narrow hallway, dimly lit by flickering bulbs overhead. The air was thick with the scent of must and something rotten. Shadows seemed to pulse around her, jittering with malicious intent. "Jake!" She called again, words tumbling from her lips in desperate bursts. Each call felt more like a prayer, each unanswered moment drawing net tighter around her throat. Her pulse quickened as she noticed doors lining the hallway. Each one was different, some wood, others metal, each exuding a vague aura of dread. She touched the nearest one, trembling at the coldness that bit into her fingers. It was locked, but she could feel the vibrations behind it, heavy breathing, a whisper no, sobbing. "Jake?" Silence fell again, but the vibrations intensified, almost urgent. She moved to the next door, glancing back up the staircase, tempted by the flickering light above. But she couldn't turn back. The urgency propelled her forward. She could not abandon Jake. Not here, not now. Hands shaking, she felt for the handle again and turned. This door swung open, revealing a small, dark chamber. A single light bulb battled against the shadows, swaying unsettlingly above. What it illuminated turned her stomach. The room was filled with items that didn't belong. Old torn clothing, a child's shoe. Her breath hitched in her throat. Recognizing the stench now, was that stale blood? Mom. A voice cracked through the air, high and desperate. It was Jake. The sound echoed like a siren, guiding her through the dark. She darted inside, surrounded by dread, her eyes struggling to adjust. As she scanned the room, a sudden force slammed the door shut behind her, trapping her inside. Panic washed over her. The light flickered and went out, drowning her in darkness. "Let him go," she screamed, her fists pounding on the door. But no response came. From the shadows crept a figure, a twisted parody of the child from the attic, grinning wide, eyes glinting in the dark. "You came to find him, but what if he doesn't want to be found?" A shiver coursed through her. What if this was just the beginning? What if coming here unveiled more than she ever imagined? As the room thickened with malevolence, she felt the shadows reach for her, fingers of darkness curling around her ankles. She had to act, had to escape. But as she spun to find a way out, a terrible truth crept into her awareness. The shadows were changing, transforming, wrapping around Jake, draping him in their despair. Would he join them? Fear clutched at her heart, squeezing tighter as time waned. Every second counted, but what would she sacrifice to save him? Was she even strong enough to face whatever darkness awaited her? Then, she spotted an old metal lantern, the glass cracked and dark, but perhaps it could be a weapon against the encroaching shadows. Could she turn her fear into fury? Just as she reached for it, she heard the voice again, this time softer, almost a whisper. "You brought this on us, Mommy." The air thickened with dread. Would she be consumed by the past, or could she rise against the darkness? In that moment, every choice hung heavy in the air, as terror thickened around them both. And outside, behind the door, something was waiting. What would it take to confront it? Would they survive the night? Would they discover the truth, or lose themselves entirely? Emily lunged for the lantern, her heart racing as the shadows continued their relentless advance. The darkness seemed to laugh, taunting her with whispered secrets and regrets. Gripping the cold metal, she could feel centuries of despair soaking its surface, a weight that was almost unbearable. With a flick of her wrist, she swung the lantern, the fragile glow cutting through the darkness like a knife. The shadows recoiled for a split second, revealing a flicker of Jake's frightened face peering through the gloom. Encouraged by the dim light, she stepped toward him, the glow chasing away the suffocating emotions that clouded her vision. "Mom." His voice broke as he fought against the shadows wrapping tighter around him, anchoring him to their torment. "Please, help me. Hold on," she shouted, her voice hoarse with fear. She felt the urgency like a pulse in her veins. Each second mattered, and yet, the shadows tightened their grip on Jake. "No," he cried, his small hands clawing at the dark tendrils encircling him. "They won't let me go." Emily's heart sank. The more she fought to reach him, the stronger the darkness seemed. She could feel its cold breath at her neck, grazing her skin like icy fingers. What if she was too late? What if she never saw his sweet face again? Adjusting the lantern, she aimed the glow straight at the nearest shadow, and it hissed like an angry snake. The sudden light revealed the figure lurking behind Jake, the twisted child's form, smiling wickedly. "You shouldn't have come here," it taunted, taking a step closer, the shadows swirling in delight around it. "Get away from him," Emily screamed, swinging the lantern with all her strength. The light caught the figure, but it evaporated momentarily, leaving behind an unsettling laughter echoing through the room. For every flicker of hope, there came a wave of despair. "Mommy!" Jake's desperate cry pierced her heart, a dagger twisting deeper with each passing moment. She felt the world around her closing in, shadowy walls pressing tighter, threatening to suffocate them both. Inhaling sharply, she remembered the warnings of others. There were tales of things that thrived in the darkness, and they fed on fear. A thought ignited within her like a flame flickering defiantly against the night. She had to turn her fear into strength, to stand firm against the ceaseless evil that seemed insatiable. "You can't have him," she shouted, channeling every ounce of her will into her voice. "I want to let you take him." The shadows rippled, hesitating as if debating her resolve. The laughter turned into a sneer before morphing back into a twisted grin that slithered through the room. "But he is already ours. He wishes to stay no," she yelled, squeezing her eyes shut, her heart racing against her ribcage. She couldn't back down. Not now. She raised the lantern higher, ignoring her trembling hands, feeling a heat surge through her a mother's will. Then she heard a sound, faint but growing, Jake's voice, clear and full of longing. "Mommy, please. I want to come home." With renewed determination, Emily turned the lantern towards Jake, illuminating the shadows that wrapped around him. "Come to me, Jake. You can fight it. Just reach for me." She took a step forward, the lantern's light brighter than before, pushing the darkness back ever so slightly. Jake's hands moved toward the light, and she could see the fear fading from his eyes as hope took its place. "Just like that," she encouraged. But as he reached out, the shadows coiled tighter, howling in fury. The room shook as the malevolent force fought against their bond. Suddenly, a loud crash reverberated around them. The door behind her splintered with a violent force. Emily instinctively turned, fear flooding her as she braced herself against the inevitable invasion. "Mom!" Jake shouted, his voice a desperate child's plea fighting against the chaos. Tension crackled in the air, the room swaying between light and darkness. What was coming for them? Could they hold on long enough against this onslaught? All at once, the shadows lunged, and the light flickered dangerously. A scream tore through the silence. But whose voice would it be? Would they both make it out unharmed, or would one of them be lost forever? With darkness swirling in one hand and the faint glow of hope in the other, Emily didn't know if she was strong enough to face the truth that awaited them. And then came a whisper through the cacophony, chilling her to the bone. "Why not join us?" In that moment, the choices before her split like dark branches, leading to paths she never wanted to venture down. What horrors awaited them if she allowed the shadows into her heart? As the room trembled and the shadows danced viciously around her, one question echoed louder than the others: would she succumb to despair, or would she rise to confront the ultimate terror? The shadows surged forward, a choking wave of darkness threatening to swallow her whole. Emily felt a bone-deep tremor in the air, weighty and foreboding. They were coming, and they were hungry. "Jake, stay strong," she yelled, desperation clawing at her throat. The lantern flickered again, casting fleeting images that danced mockingly before vanishing back into the black void. The laughter grew louder, a cacophony of malicious joy that pounded against her ears. Suddenly, the shadows paused, swaying as if considering her words. "Stay strong?" Such naive hope, the wicked child's voice mocked, slithering from their depths. "You think you can save him? He belongs to us now." "No," Emily shouted, feeling the adrenaline surge. She would not let them steal her son away. She gripped the lantern tighter, its warmth pulsing in her palm, a fragile flame against the impending storm. But even then, doubt wormed its way into her mind. The whispers grew, promising her a place within their dark embrace. She shook her head violently, forcing herself to focus on Jake. His face was paler than bone, tears streaking down his cheeks. "Mommy!" he cried, reaching out. The tether to their shared light flared, trying to pull him back from the brink. Their connection felt almost tangible, a delicate thread barely holding against the monstrous tide. "Keep reaching for me, Jake." Just before she could finish, an ear-splitting screech erupted from the shadows, like metal dragged against glass. It rattled the lantern in her hands, and for a breathless moment, the light flickered out entirely. Darkness consumed them, sharp and absolute. Emily's heart raced, panic clawing at her chest as she fumbled desperately for the lantern in the inky blackness. Tears welled in her eyes as the doubt encased her thoughts. Maybe they were already lost. Maybe the shadows had claimed them, leaving only echoes of hope. Then, as if ignited by her need, the lantern flickered back to life, casting a fragile circle of golden light. It illuminated the monstrous figures twisting and writhing just beyond its reach, their eyes like black holes sucking in all light, all joy. "This is your last chance," the child's voice growled, now smoother like honey. "Join us willingly, and the pain fades, Jake." Emily cried, renewed vigor surging through her. "I will never give up on you." But shadows whipped around her, tendrils reaching out as if to snatch her words away. Emily pushed forward, the light growing, filling her with warmth. She could see Jake's fear slowly vanishing, replaced by a small flicker of defiance. He nodded, inching closer. "Mom, I can do it," he called, his voice strong now despite the despair around them. "Just a little more," Emily urged, willing the light to expand, to push back the darkness. The shadows hissed, recoiling in a vicious wave as the warmth intensified. For a moment, the anguished faces twisted in outrage. Then came the thunderous crash again, the door splintering apart into a flurry of jagged wooden shards, scattering across the room like forgotten memories. Into the chaos dragged an even deeper darkness, bigger, heavier. Something ancient, creeping just outside the lantern's glow. "Together," Emily cried. The bond of a mother and child held a power stronger than fear. In that instant, she felt the energy surge, pulsing from their connection, beating against the shadows that refused to retreat. Yet from the depths came a malevolent whisper, curling softly against her ear. "You'll never win. Emily, we are coming for you." An unbearable weight hung in the air. It slithered through her heart, twisting her resolve. Suddenly, doubt seeped in like chilling fog. Could they truly withstand them? Would they emerge together, or would they be engulfed by the consuming dark? With the world spinning, a choice remained looming, stronger than any fear. Fight or surrender. Would Emily ignite that flicker of hope or succumb to the shadows that promised release? As the darkness swarmed closer, she pressed the lantern tighter to her heart. Why did she feel something sinister pulling her closer? In the back of her mind, another chilling thought crept in. What if the shadows wanted her just as much as they wanted Jake? What if she was destined to join their ranks? The crashing echoed again, sharper, followed by a sinister laugh that sent shivers coursing through her body. Everything was spiraling. Time itself felt warped. Then came the silence. Chilling, expectant. And in that silence, a choice awaited. Teetering on the brink of darkness, what was she willing to sacrifice to keep her son by her side? Would she embrace the dark to save him, or could she wield the light as a weapon against the lurking terror? The shadows writhed, a swirling mass that seemed to breathe, pulsating in rhythm with Emily's own frantic heartbeat. She could feel their cold presence clawing at her skin, an icy grip threatening to pull her under. Panic surged again, heavy like a stone in her stomach. She couldn't let them win. "Jake, hurry!" she cried, her voice echoing in the narrowing light. She watched as he faltered, the flickering glow revealing his wide, terrified eyes. Each moment felt like an eternity as the darkness leaned in closer, eager to snatch him away. "Mom!" he cried again, but now there was something deeper in his voice. Was it fear or resolve? Emily barely had time to consider it before a shadow lunged, a twisting arm of darkness darting for Jake. "No!" The scream tore from her throat as she lunged forward, the lantern swinging wildly. The light blazed brighter, its golden hue pushing against the inky tide. The shadow recoiled as if burned, hissing violently. But there were more, countless more. They didn't just want Jake. They wanted her, too. She could feel the whispers tightening around her mind, bringing fragments of her past, failures, regrets, haunting moments that betrayed her. Every misstep invited them closer. "Join us, feel the relief," a chorus of voices echoed, seductive and sinister. Emily shut her eyes against their pull, concentrating on Jake. She opened her eyes to see him struggling against the luring dark. "I'm here. Just hold on." She reached out, her arm trembling as her hand extended toward him. The shadows slithered dangerously close, seeking weakness, searching for fear, tasting her despair. Then, out of the corner of her eye, something stirred, a flicker behind the mass of shadows. A figure, tall and thin, stepped into the wavering light, their features obscured yet unsettlingly familiar. The figure grinned, twisted and malevolent. A chill scuttled down Emily's spine. "Back so soon, Emily?" The figure taunted, the voice dripping with mock sympathy. "You were never supposed to find out. Get away from him," she shouted, heart hammering in her chest. She wasn't prepared for the onslaught of all the memories flooding back the choices she had made, the darkness she had denied for too long. Maybe she hadn't always fought hard enough. Maybe this was her reckoning. With desperate strength, she turned the lantern towards the tall figure, the light bursting forth in a strobe of brilliant intensity. The figure shrank back, screeching as the shadows shivered and writhed, battling against the fierce glow. "Jake, take my hand," Emily yelled, reaching deeper into her soul for that flicker of hope that she knew existed. The darkness surrounded them, a tempest intent on snatching them apart. "I want to let them take you." He hesitated, the shadows swirling violently, pulling at him like a riptide. But then, with a gasp, he lunged, grasping her outstretched hand. The strength of their bond surged through them, a golden thread of light tying them together. The shadows screamed in rage, converging like a ferocious storm. Emily felt their weight pressing down, but she tightened her grip on the lantern, feeling warmth radiate through them. The voice of the familiar figure blasted furiously against her resolve, echoing, "You can't escape your fate." "What fate?" Emily yelled back, her voice blending into the righteous fury that erupted inside her. "You don't own me." Their joined energy thrummed, the lantern shining like a beacon, illuminating the darkness that threatened to engulf them. Yet, just then, Emily's grasp faltered slightly as darkness lashed out, giving her a terrible sense of forgetting, of the weight of her past pulling at her. The shadow figure sneered, inching closer. "Surrender, and the pain will cease." The offer slithered into her mind, stirring something deep inside, the fear of loss, the thought of relief. Then came an anguished scream, reverberating through the walls of her mind, piercing her heart. It was familiar, wrapped in anguish, someone she thought she had lost forever. The lantern flickered once more, almost extinguished in that moment of doubt, the alluring darkness creeping back like fog over a graveyard. "Who's that?" she whispered, disbelief curling in her throat. Shadows hissed, swirling like smoke, beckoning to her deepest fears. The voice echoed again, growing louder, morphing into a cruel mockery. "Let it consume you." Emily, terror seized her. Had she truly lost everything? Just then, the lantern flickered back to life, illuminating Jake's steadfast face, his eyes bright with courage. "Mom," he shouted, pulling her back from the brink. "Don't listen." Was this light enough to fight off the dark? What lay waiting behind the curtain of shadows? And as something unseen drew closer, the eerie whispers shifted to a thunderous roar, drowning out all hope. What if the shadows were only the beginning? What lay beyond the darkness? And would they truly escape together or lose everything? Emily's heart raced as she clung to Jake's hand. The lantern pulsed with warmth, but shadows danced angrily around them, coiling tighter, their whispers growing more insistent, a cacophony of temptations and threats. "Don't give in, don't give in," she chanted silently, pulling Jake closer. Then, the familiar voice gripped her. "Emily, I know your pain, I know your secrets. They won't stop until you do." The figure stepped deeper into the light. Its face still eluded clarity, but its presence twisted at the corners of her mind, dredging up memories she long buried. Megan. The day she abandoned her sister during that storm. Mom. Jake's voice brought her back, but the shadows seemed to cling even tighter, hungry for her surrender. "What if we can't escape?" "No," she exclaimed, grit filling her veins. "We can't. Just hold on." The lantern flickered, and darkness clawed at the edges. It wanted to pry them apart, distort their bond. Each shadow shifted and stretched, a living entity intent on devouring the light. Emily raised the lantern high overhead. She had to shine brighter. "What's wrong, dear sister?" The figure crooned mockingly. "You can't escape the truth. You left me to drown." Screaming noise crashed inside her skull. A tidal wave of guilt flooded over her. "No, I tried to save you. I did." She felt herself slipping, teetering on the edge. "Mom, you're stronger than this," Jake shouted, his voice unwavering. The shadows shrank back, as if recoiling from his light. With sudden resolve, Emily opened her eyes. They fell on Jake. Their connection was unbreakable. It sparked with courage, glowing like molten gold. She turned back to the fanged figure. "Enough of your lies." The figure faltered, the sneer twisting into a surprised frown. They'll never forgive you. Can't you see? You're trapped in their anger. I won't let you manipulate me. Emily roared, the fire in her core igniting. She swung the lantern, sending a shockwave of radiance out. The glowing energy expanded, pushing the shadows back, forcing them to retreat. But with each step backward, they hissed like a pack of feral beasts, their tones shifting a broken symphony of despair. You think this will protect you? You're only a heartbeat away from falling. Then it will be my choice. Emily shouted, drowning out the darkness. But in that moment of defiance, the ground trembled. An undercurrent of fear gripped her. She couldn't hold them back forever. The sky above rumbled menacingly, the weight of a storm pressing in. Flashes of lightning illuminated the figure momentarily, revealing a face she recognized all too well. It was Megan, twisted and wraith-like, but undeniably there, eyes blazing with grief and fury. Emily, you left me. No, I didn't mean to. I thought you could escape. The shadows surged, emboldened by her confusion and grief, swirling back towards her, consuming her light. She felt the chill creeping once again, each heartbeat a reminder of her past failure. The whispers climbed to a deafening crescendo, clawing at her sanity. Let it go? Join us. No. Her voice rang out even as her energy waned. Seconds felt like eternity. She had to act. She willed the lantern to shine brighter. I have to remember who I am. Jake tugged on her hand, grounding her in that moment. Mom, don't look back. But the shadows laughed, a horrid, echoing mockery. You are nothing without your past. You need us, Emily. Suddenly, from the darkness, an unearthly roar erupted. The ground shook violently, the shadows converging fiercely, and Emily felt a wave of terror battering her resolve. What is happening? Jake's eyes widened with fear. The lantern flickered precariously, its light flickering dangerously. Hold on to me. Emily screamed, gripping the lantern tightly, pushing forward against the onslaught. But as she did, a terrifying realization crashed over her like icy water. What if the only way to truly escape was to face the shadows head-on? Before she could think, the shadows lunged one final time, and Emily prepared for the inevitable plunge into darkness. What truth would she find there? And would it be the salvation she needed, or the ultimate betrayal? The shadows lunged, engulfing them in an inky blackness that consumed every ounce of light. Emily felt Jake's hand tighten around hers, his pulse racing, warm against the cold dread gnawing at her heart. Time seemed to stretch, and for a moment, the world slipped away. Suddenly, a blinding flare of light erupted from the lantern, tearing through the darkness. Emily braced herself, squinting against the brightness as she saw Megan's tormented face merge with the shadows, an amalgamation of pain and rage. If you seek to escape, she shrieked, her voice echoing like cracked glass, you must first confront what you fear most. The light flickered once more, and the shadows recoiled, but they were not broken. Instead, they twisted into grotesque shapes, a swirling vortex of guilt and grief that closed in around them. Emily's heart thundered in her chest. Jake, she gasped, pulling him closer. We have to fight. Together. Together. Jake echoed, his voice bolstered by a fierce determination. Their hands squeezed tighter, igniting another pulse of golden radiance from the lantern. As the light radiated outward, the darkness hissed, frenzied and chaotic. Face the truth, Emily. Relinquish your guilt. The shadows writhed, forming chilling images from the depths of her memory. Megan's despairing face, their childhood home collapsing in the storm, that moment of utter helplessness. Each memory clawed at her resolve, begging her to surrender to the overwhelming shame. No, I won't let you take me, she cried. The lantern sputtered, flickering perilously, but Emily held it high. This is my truth, not yours. She felt an unexpected warmth wash over her, a spark of courage ignited by her son's unwavering support. The shadows swelled, drowning her words, but she wouldn't back down. I loved her, Emily screamed. I tried to save her. The array of memories twisted violently in response, but she pressed on. I was scared. I made mistakes, but I will not let you erase my light. The lantern pulsed vibrantly, casting a bright beam like a sunbeam cutting through storm clouds. Each word she spoke filled the air with vibrant energy, feeding the lantern's glow. The shadows hissed in protest, moving back for the first time, leaving a small clearing around them. "Hold on, Jake," Emily urged, her determination peaking. The dark figure flinched and recoiled, as if struck by a mighty blow. "You may haunt me, but I am not your prisoner." "Emily," Jake shouted, his voice bolstered by newfound resolve. He stepped boldly forward, extinguishing the lingering tendrils of darkness with the warmth of their light. With a piercing scream, the figure of Megan faded, dissolving back into the shadows as they retreated. But even as the immediate danger seemed to dissipate, new whispers filled the air, each taunting her with newfound horrors. "You think you've won? You've merely scratched the surface. What happens when the real nightmare awakens?" The ground trembled beneath them, and the once dim flicker of the lantern began to pulse erratically. Shadows gathered like dark ink spilling from an unseen wound. The air turned frigid, thick with the acrid scent of fear. Emily glanced at Jake. "What is it?" "Something else is coming," he breathed, eyes wide in terror. The lantern's light began to falter, and their bubble of safety shrunk to a fragile thread as the first hissing breath of the encroaching darkness swirled around them. Dread gripped Emily's heart again. "What do we do now?" she whispered, fear threading her voice. Just then, a bone-chilling howl rose from the depths of the abyss, a harbinger of something worse than shadows, the true monster lurking beneath. In that moment, Emily knew they had to decide, would they confront this deeper darkness together, or was it time to run? The abyss beckoned, and a sinister laugh echoed, sending shivers through their bones. Desperation clawed at her as the lantern's dwindling flame flickered one last time. What fresh horrors awaited them in the depths of the dark? Emily's heart raced as the shadows swirled more intensely, closing in, a tempest of darkness that seemed aware of their fear, hungry for their despair. The chilling howl from the abyss felt like an echo of her own doubts, mocking her resolve. She clutched the lantern, feeling its weight pressing down with the gravity of her past and her choices. "Jake, we need to move," she urged, taking a bold step forward, the lantern's light flickering weakly as if sharing in their fear. She could see the darkness stretching toward them, tendrils reaching out. They weren't just reflections of her past. They were the very essence of her regret and sorrow. "Mom, what if it's too strong?" Jake's voice trembled, but it was laced with a flicker of courage. "It doesn't matter. We face it together," she shouted back, steeling herself. Each step felt like wading through thick mud, the shadows clawing at her ankles, desperate to pull her back into the depths of despair. The howling grew louder, an inescapable reminder of her fears. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the swirling darkness, a twisted, grotesque version of the child from before, its smile sharp and gleeful. "You're too late, Emily. You cannot outrun the truth. It's time for you to join the rest," it hissed, its eyes glinting dangerously. "Back!" Emily cried, lifting the lantern high. "You want to take my son. You want to take me." The light pulsed, fighting against the encroaching darkness like a lighthouse amidst a storm. But as Emily took her stance, doubt crept in again. What if she didn't have enough light to push back the tide? What if this was the moment they were truly lost? And yet, staring into Jake's wide, fearful eyes, she felt a surge of clarity. "You are not the one in control." She stepped forward, the lantern glowing brighter, illuminating the corners of the abyss. "Join us, Emily," the shadows whispered, their voices growing louder as if they were the voices of her own past failures, all the moments she wished she could change, all the pain she wished she could erase. "You know you want to embrace it. This struggle is so tiresome now," she screamed back, defiance erupting from the core of her being. "I choose light. I choose to fight." Jake squeezed her hand tightly, his resolve reflecting in his eyes. The light from the lantern brightened, chasing away the swirling shadows momentarily. Under its warmth, she saw flickers of hope. For a brief second, the shadows shrank back, revealing the true horror of the depths that lay beneath an expansive void, a gaping maw that felt alive, eager to consume everything in its path. Together, they took another step forward, their light piercing the ether of despair. "Find your strength, Jake. Remember the love we share, that's what we have against this." Jake nodded, his terror transforming into courage. Together, he echoed, his voice more solid than before. As they advanced, the howling intensified, but this time, rather than succumbing to fear, they leaned into each other. The walls of darkness seemed to shift and bend around them, feeling the warmth of their resolve disrupting the fabric of despair. "Face us," Emily shouted, and the shadows shrunk back again, visibly recoiling from the intensity of their light. For the first time, she felt they were not alone in this fight. The bond of their love was a tangible force that pushed the darkness away. With each step, they inched forward, illuminating more of the abyss, revealing not just shadows but twisted remnants of memories long dead, hauntings of regret clawing for attention. But this time, instead of crumbling under their weight, Emily allowed the memories to pass around her. They were her past, but they would not define her. "I forgive myself," she shouted into the void. "I accept my mistakes, but they will not chains bind me to despair." The shadows screamed in fury, swirling wildly as their hold weakened. With one final push, Emily lifted the lantern higher, illuminating the chamber of shadows in brilliant light, revealing their true forms. The hissing winds fell silent. The dark figures wavered uneasily, their forms flickering in and out like dying embers, crumbling before their undying light of hope. "Let us go, Jake," Emily urged as she felt the ground beneath start to quake, the shadows losing their form, collapsing inward. Together, they sprinted towards the flickering archway of light, feeling its warmth embrace them, welcoming life back into their spirits. As they stepped through, a brilliant burst of light enveloped them. The shadows screamed, their voices fading into the ether. Emily felt a rush of energy. They had faced the dark. They had chosen to emerge victorious together. They found themselves back in the attic, the heavy air now light and bright, no darkness left to haunt them. She turned to Jake, who looked astonished yet relieved. "We did it," he gasped, eyes wide with disbelief. "We did," she said, joy swelling in her chest, tears of relief sliding down her face. "We fought the darkness, and we chose light." In that moment, the weight of the horrors they had faced lifted, leaving only the strength of their bond. Hand in hand, they stepped toward the sunlight streaming through the attic window, ready to embrace a new chapter. It was time to heal and savor the everyday moments they once took for granted. As they left the house for good, a breeze swept through the open door, carrying away the remnants of darkness, leaving only hope in its wake. Now it's your turn to take action. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. Instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share. True fans know how important it is to stand by the channel through these actions.